now you're saying 1.4.
That 1.9
Yeah, that's,
that is just the 2.4% increase. That's all that's showing you. That is showing you the increase from the collections at 132 mills, which is 79.7, to the 135.2 mills, which is the 81.6. That's just the millage increase. So there's different factors. You have the actual millage increase, you have the actual increase from the assessed value, and the increase from the increase in the collection. So those three factors are driving the real estate. I understand. I need to show it in a different way.
it's not clear, because then if you look at just the line that says RE collections, it's 80.6 million or 80.7 million, and then it goes to 81.6 million. So that's a difference of $1 million or 900,000, which is up at the top. But then you're showing there's all these different numbers, and they don't all go together. They don't all match, and it's not clear.
I'll show it a different way to make it more sense. Okay. I will.
Okay.
I have a question. This 96.5% collection rate, where are you getting that number? Are you getting it off the PDE website, or?
No, it's our actual 1415, the Pennridge School District's collection rate, actual collection rate. So actual dollars collected compared to the duplicate. We collected 96.5%. This year in 16-17, we actually collected 96.68%. I chose to go a little bit conservative and go with the 96.5 based on the 14-15 actually. So 15-16, our actual is even a little bit higher, but it has actually been increasing each year.
So these are your own, I mean, I'm just asking, these are your own numbers?
They're my calculations, but they're calculated based on the actual results of our collections.
Okay.
Yes, I didn't go to PD or anything like that. They're based off of our own internal documents.
What did the state property tax relief received, what was that last year?
It's about 2.3 million.
So, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you have any, do you expect that to be reasonably close to where that was?
That is usually fairly close from year to year. The history of that has been that it's been relatively close, within a few hundred or few thousand dollars from year to year. And then you go through the homestead, farmstead calculation to determine how much each property receives back.
So you expect that to decrease it by another 2.4 million? Is that?
No, I don't have it in here because the state hasn't certified it yet and told us what they're going to give us. When they do that, then I'll put that in the calculation.
Right, but so since it's not in the calculation yet, when you add it in, that would drop it or you're saying?
How that works is this: say the state gives us $2.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
We have to reduce the assessed values of the properties by the homestead, farmstead properties by that $2.4 million.
Oh, so it works
It's
out
a
to be
dollar for dollar. State gives us 2.4, we reduce taxes by 2.4.
Okay.
It's a dollar for dollar.
All right, thank you.
So, basically, and I will, Mrs. Yardy, I'll put that together in a different format that makes more sense.
Can you just tell me what is, with those two changes, the increase in the assessed value and the increase in the collection rate, how is that impacting the $3.2 million deficit?
It is lowering the deficit. The increase, the two of them combined, the increase in the collection rate and the increase in the assessed value generates about 900,000. So it helps us that much. Okay.
So that's the bottom line, because we had several different numbers. So you're saying that's
Yeah.
900,000.
I'll show you what the actual tax rate, millage rate increase generates, what the actual change in the assessed value generates, and what the actual change in the collection rate generates. I'll show those all to you in a much
Okay.
clearer format. Okay?
But you already factored in the 2.4% tax increase, so just those two additional changes is bringing in an additional $900,000. Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Okay? Then, the next option you have is a little bit lower there, is the referendum exceptions. The retirement exception will allow you to generate $967,239 in revenue. And that equates to 1.6 mils. Okay? And the total millage then that would be allowable jumps to 136.8585. Okay? And that then allows for a total dollar increase of 2.880, or $2,880,000, or 4.7730. So you have the options, really three options. Well, many options, but one option is no tax increase. One option is any tax increase between 0 and 4.7730, basically, is what your options are to generate revenue to offset the expenditures or the increases in the deficit. The number of taxable parcels is $18,802, or $18,802, and that is from our last real estate billing. The average cost per property is $4,392. The average cost of 1 mil increase is $33.26. The average cost per property for the index, so if you chose the index, which is the 2.4%, or the 3.17 mils, it's $101. If you chose the additional increase, or 1.6 mils for the exception, it's an average of $51.44.
How much? I'm sorry, I
You see
couldn't
the
hear.
total there? Yes, yes. You'd add this together for the total of $153. So your total increase percentage allowed by the index, what we talked about, is 2.4. The exception equates to 1.2% increase, and the total of 3.6. Okay? So that's kind of a rundown of what our options are for the real estate.
I have a general question. When Kathy Johnson was here, and then you confirmed it as well when you came on board, that she said, warned us that we were going to need to make systemic changes because we couldn't keep pulling from the fund balance, and you agreed we needed to make some systemic changes. So have we?
Have we?
Have we?
That's what we're trying to
Systemic
do.
changes, not just massaging the numbers for revenue
Yes. We're
on the
changing,
expenditure
we're
side?
changing the expenditure side also.
Okay, thank you. Maybe you can share that when, in detail when you,
We will, yep.
when you gather it. Thank you. Okay.
John, could you just go over the 4.7730?
4.7.
You called that, I'm not sure what you called that, because I thought the max, like the total tax plus index was 3.6. And then...
The index is 3.1701 mils. The exception is 1.6030 mils. And you add those two together,
That's
you get
the
the
4.7.
4.77. That's millage.
The other's percentage.
The other, at the bottom is percentage, which that equates to 3.6%.
Yeah, okay, I mixed up the mill percentage. So, thanks.
So
Could you repeat that?
The exception, taking the exception, which is an additional 1.2%, brings in an additional $967,000?
Yes.
Correct? Okay, thank you.
You're exactly right.
So what are our retirement numbers that we got from April 1st?
Sure. We have 12 retirements, and those retirements generated about $619,000 in salary savings.
So,
12 retirements, about $619,000 in salary savings.
So that would be rated?
Yes, that would be what the program. Those are all teachers. Those are certified staff.
so and that hasn't been factored in here yet, right?
It's factored in on the expense side. This is just the revenue side.
Okay.
Yep. That will be factored in when we look at it in 2 weeks.
Mrs. Miller, just as a point of clarification, if you've been around long enough and followed these numbers, at one time, the district used 97% as the collection rate. It was a bit high, especially when we got to the recession. It was lowered first to 96.5 and then to the 96. Now we're potentially raising it back.
I was just curious where it got the number.
I mean, it's been a matter of some debate, not a lot of debate, but it has been a matter of debate over many years of time as to what the realistic number would be.
And recently as well, because, some have said that Kathy, did not, she was very conservative. And then we find out later that, we collected more than we thought, and that doesn't really set well for many people. So, I think Sean's stepping up a little bit, and does anybody have a problem with that part of the budget? I mean, I think he's done his homework on it. So I think that's a good move. So one of the things we're going to do tonight is try to get ready for the 18th. And if you look at the bottom, it's kind of like the synopsis of where we're at. So I'm trying to get Sean to, attach the revenue side, come back with the expense changes. And, I sent you guys an email trying to get us to give our opinions tonight, like what are we thinking about doing? Are we thinking zero tax increase? Are we thinking index? Are we thinking, what are we thinking? Where are we at? So it's always been a really suspenseful event since I've been on the board. We wait till the last night and then we see whose name comes out of the envelope. And so I think it's Sean's first year. We're helping him and we're helping ourselves by coming out tonight and trying to say what we're thinking about it. Maybe it's too early because we haven't seen a change in the expenses, but that being said, the options are still going to be, the options have been either be zero, somewhere between there, go for the max. So, does anybody want to start off with the...
I'll start off. I think it's too early to make that determination without having seen all the numbers.
How are we going to guide him so we can land on time?
Well, I feel like,
Because that's what we always do. And then we will nail the business administrators and ourselves at the last possible minute. So, I mean, I don't know, I'm not saying we shouldn't continue to talk about things, and I agree with you. I don't think it's too early to let these guys know that we're saying we don't want any tax increase. I don't think it's too early to say we all agree with taking a 3.6% tax increase. So I don't know if any of us, so this is not something that we're trying to guide our business office. So that's all it really is.
I'll throw my hat in. I'll go with the index.
I agree. I'm thinking the index, but I don't like that other number. I don't want to go beyond the index. And it sounds like, just in the talking, I feel like that it can work out to be fine. If we
Well,
do the
there's
index.
other parts this year too. I mean, the past couple of years, we haven't really replaced any professional staff.
Yeah, I know, and I think that we can still, from what I was listening to, I feel like there's maybe some more, we can work our way down and find it from different areas.
I'm going to get Sean in the mix here too. I mean, so the first two things are coming at index. Can you get us what we talked about up to this point? Is that doable in your mind? I mean, typically we're used to you guys asking for, put it back on us, but, 3.6, let's go for it. I don't know if we've ever done that, I can't really remember, I guess I should be able to. Have we ever taken the exceptions to the max here? Recess? Last, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
Now, and that being said, and, maybe Sean could touch on this, this could potentially, next year, should be sort of a leveling off of some of our PESER's expenses?
Next,
Is it the year, is it that next year's budget? It is. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not the train.
Yeah, the next year, the PESER's increase will only be about 2%. That's what their estimate is right now, which will add about between $500,000 and $600,000 expenditures to the budget, which is a lot better than the 1.5 to 1.6 million we've been doing every year for the last 4 years. So the light is coming at the end of that tunnel. But next year will be much easier than the increase that we saw this year. As far as the total dollar value of the increase, don't get me wrong, that no budgeting year seems to be easy anymore, for sure. Because there's always lots of things that we need and limited resources available to fund those things. But, to answer your question, pie in the sky, everything that we wanted in the world, yeah, I would want the exception also, but that's not a realistic way for me to think as a business administrator, or perhaps for you guys to think as board members. But I do think that in order to close these gaps that have built up over the last few years here within the budget, and fund the things that we want to fund, and to start putting teachers back in the classroom like Mrs. DeBone has asked for, the index would be a huge step in the right direction in order to do that. If we had no tax increase, basically what you would be asking the administration to do would be to cut an additional $1.9 million of expenditures from the budget. And in order to do that, we would have to go into the classroom and eliminate teachers and programs. But I do believe that I can bring you a budget that is, if not balanced, much, much, much closer to balance with the 2.4%. Will it have everything in there we want? No, it won't. It might not have the buses that we need to replace next year or something like that. We may need to do something creative with that again, like doing some capital money for that again. But we will be much closer than we are now, than we have been in the last few years. Did I answer your question?
You did, for me. I mean, I would like to see you don't go any further than the index, and if possible, under it. But, I'm willing to go along with the index. That's what we have. That's the tool we have to work with.
I was going to say, I would like to see the teachers that we need, that we, instead of just saying, well, this is the amount we're willing to increase, I would like to see us build a budget around what we need in the classroom. And then I would like to see that. And that's what I would want to see. And how much does that cost, what increase does that require to have those teachers that we need to give the students the education that we want to give them? So that, yeah.
Well, that is essentially what we have done this year. I think it's been reasonable, and we're trying to give all the students everything that they want, the best that we can. I mean, we're not, running classes just with 5 students unless there's a reason for that. But as you heard Mr. Bona said, based on the way we've been able to massage these numbers, we have class sizes now that are below 30. So, much more reasonable.
I agree with Mrs. Yardley. I mean, we sat here twice and, listened to Ms. DeBona bringing us information about the teachers and that, and I feel confident that in saying that everyone here supports making that the priority. That being said, I can support the index, going to the index here. I don't know, I know that the retirements, again, it's kind of that crystal ball thing. We don't know what's going to come in every year up until this point. That being said, had we hoped for more to help with this number? I know, like, in past years, also that we took from one fund to do this. I do agree with the fact that, we have to just face this head on, not borrow from one to fix this year's problem, as Mrs. Miller stated. What we've set the task before you, Mr. Dauber. But I can support the index.
Anybody else want to make any comments at this point, or are we, Dr. Yarnell?
My concern has been that in all the years that I have been involved with the board, and even before that, when I was a parent and a taxpayer in the district, there was no use of fund balance for balancing the budget. The last 5 years, each and every year has been use of fund balance for balancing the budget. This has been not a great problem yet at Pennridge. I think it's a huge problem at the VOTEC, which is part of us as well, but only part of us, and it has a separate cause there. Actually, it has somewhat of the same cause. The index that we're trying to live with for all 3 districts, which dictates how much money is spent. That's a separate issue, but that does concern me. A lot of that has had to do with the dramatic PSERS increases that have occurred over those last 5 years, and with the recession that occurred in 2008, 9, and so forth. Obviously, I think these numbers are encouraging tonight in that the assessed value is beginning to increase, and to that point, the assessed value is increasing faster here than in Palisades or Quakertown, which I find very interesting. I know that only because that ratio plays into the VOTEC budget, so we get those numbers every year. So I think that's obviously a positive thing for everybody, if those, because it was flat for a very long time, essentially, the assessed value that the county gave us for the properties in this district. So yes, I could live with the index, and I do not want to see us use a large chunk of fund balance again this year. I think that's a problem waiting to happen, especially if we have some crisis. We used the accumulated fund balance for years to renovate our middle schools and elementary schools, and I think that was a very worthwhile program, something that presumably invested in for as much as 30 years, but it wasn't money we had to go out to get a bond issue. Clearly we haven't done that in a while, but when we do, if we do, the state doesn't have a particularly good bond rating, so that's not going to help us.
I would say the index, yes. I don't think ruling out the exception is necessarily something I don't think you should rule it out, taking the exception, only because if this may be our last year to potentially take that exception, if I understood correctly before we had a conversation. I like the idea of trying to put teachers back in the classroom and have that, and I think that would be a help to it. So, most certainly the index, but I would not rule out the exceptions.
Okay, Sean, do you have anything else for tonight? So we'll be coming back here on the 18th. We're going to get, maybe you can really quickly give us, what are our timeline? We're fast approaching like 0 hour here when we vote this year. It's early again this year, isn't it?
Well, we will have to vote on a preliminary budget at the May voting meeting, and then a final budget at the June meeting. that is as late as we can go.
So are you anticipate, how many more times will we meet to discuss this in front of the public? Do you think? Next, on the 18th?
I think on the 18th, we can show the board what's in the budget, and then I think the board will drive where we go from there. If the board is happy with where we're at, maybe we can move forward, or the board sends us back to the drawing board, and we'll go back.
Well, I think what Dr. Yarnell said is probably, you know, wise words. You know, you gotta dig in somewhere other than fund balance. So wherever you can get creative, you know, then, you know, take your best shot with that, because, you know, if not, we're just, you know, like trading dollars again.
Yeah, certainly my goal is to bring you a budget that is, my ultimate goal is to bring you a budget that's balanced with what I'm hearing with the taking, allowing for the index. That is my ultimate goal, and we'll see how close we can get to that.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for, you know, offering up where we're thinking. I think that since I've been on the board, this is the earliest I've ever seen us, you know, talk about it.
I have a question.
I have a question. So with the information that we have tonight, can we tell the high school to proceed? Because I know they said the more time, the better for them to get the student schedules done, or do we need to wait till the next meeting?
Well, I will certainly build those positions into what I bring you on the 18th. And that'll be our goal, is to bring you a balanced budget with those positions included. What Mrs. DeBone has outlined that she needs, I'll put in that budget and bring to you.
All right, good.
But I think what Mrs. Yardley is saying, the high school's really ready to start building the schedule. So they don't necessarily want to wait till the 18th. They'd like to start yesterday, a month ago, 2 months ago. So the fact that the amount is already in the budget, we just have to figure out a way to balance it out. So I've basically been listening to all of you, I think, say that you're supporting giving her these teachers, unless I misheard something. So I'd like to let her get going, because this is not an easy process.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
I do really appreciate the guidance from the board. I have spent many years developing budgets and not knowing what, you know, the board's ultimate decision will be until some day in June. So I truly appreciate knowing in April what your goals are and what your wishes are.
All right, thanks for doing all this too. And also, you're going to clean this up, move it around a little bit?
Yeah.
And then
I'll
maybe
probably
we could all get a
start
copy
all
of that?
over again, yeah.
And then next time we do this, we should have something on the board or something to pass out. We'll put it up there the next time, because you guys get it. You two, if anybody gets it, you guys get it. Still working, still moving. It would have been nice to have it, I agree. I do. I get it. And we just have it here electronically, and we're just seeing it ourselves tonight. So apologize for that. I'd rather you see it. Believe me, I would. So sorry that kind of played out that way. But we still have plenty more times to get together. So anybody have anything else? If not, we're going to, go ahead, Dr. Yarnell.
Yes, I have an item that's not on the agenda that came to my attention today. And that is, the board has, for the last number of years, given 8 super senior scholarships of $500 each. This particular year, that fund only has enough to do 5. I'd like to ask the board to consider taking, hopefully from the board's funds, another $1,500, which would cover the additional 3 students for this year. Mrs. Schmidt and I will be going through the applications. I believe there are 44 of them this year, so it's always an interesting challenge. It'll be a lot harder to do only 5 than it might be to do 8, but I believe, I don't know this for sure, but Mr. Daubert, maybe you can check what the board account still has in it for the 2015-16 school year, and then I'd like to know whether the board members would consider contributing that amount of money to the super senior scholarship fund.
What's the plan for funding it in the future? How was it funded in the past? Was it, and then what's the plan going forward?
Remember, this was originally a loan program. The loans tended not to be paid back by some people who absolutely could have and should have paid them back, and it became such a hassle that it was converted to a scholarship fund. I believe it's been living off the principal primarily and I think we're just running that principal down. So probably at some point, we'll have to decide whether to close the program or to somehow fund it.
I thought we, didn't we last year get rid of all those ones from 1968 and 72?
Yes.
We did, but we didn't collect the money. Right?
Well, right.
They were written, the auditors wanted them off our books.
That's what it was. That's right.
Because they'd been there so long. But the money was not collected. I mean, some of it was, but some of it was not, unfortunately. Board members?
So you're asking?
I am
would say
asking,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, 'cause we
How much-
did.
Yes.
Thursday.
Yeah, we're doing it Thursday.
We're
Obviously,
tasked
we should
with
approve this
decisions
What's
on
the amount,
Thursday.
how much is in the, like, we need to know, there's enough money to cover it?
To cover, yes,
Fine.
we need to double check that, obviously. I do not know that, Mrs. Yardley, but I believe there is, because almost every year there's something over.
Right,
Unless
that's
someone
fine.
travels to the national conference or something seriously
Dave's not
costly.
here anymore, so we won't be spending that.
What? I'm sorry.
Dave's not here
No.
anymore, right?
So, Mr. Daubert, can you check that, send it out to board members? And if so, if board members are willing to do that, I'd like to put this on the agenda on the 25th to be voted upon.
Is this part of the meeting? Is this part of the meeting?
It's part of finance, yes.
Can you put your microphone on?
It is part of finance.
Okay.
That's where we have to draw the funds if we're going to do it.
So we'll give you a copy of, Sean's copy of the document we were looking at. Mrs. Furlong, is that okay with you?
Yeah, email that to me, please.
And then we're going to, anybody have anything else before we wrap it up here? Okay, so you had your two comments. Do you like to say anything else before we wrap it up here tonight? Briefly,
Yes, I would like to say something.
3 minutes, please, thank you.
Oh, well, we'll see. You might want to hear more.
Hit it again. There.
Is it on? Okay. Sue Furlong, West Rock Hill Township. I sent the board an email. I wasn't very happy last night when I was trying to figure out what was going to happen tonight. Just want to talk about, we constantly hear from Mr. Yarnell about how he does not like the right to knows and information, that kind of thing that people ask for. So I want to just run through some things. I'm going to try to do this in 3 minutes. I don't have an overhead.
It's going to be 3 minutes because it's your third time and you're supposed to.
Oh, no, I'm allowed.
No, you're allowed to talk to the chair, not to individual board members. That's what you're allowed to do.
I'm making
So
a comment as to the
You're on the clock.
background.
Go ahead.
The background that makes me upset. First of all, there was no agenda for either of these meetings until 2 o'clock this afternoon, approximately. I would like to say that in the fundraising committees, we have 2 chairs, neither of whom can do any minutes for those meetings that are listed, which is one in August and one in January. So there are no minutes. Personnel, there have not been any minutes since the beginning of fiscal year 2015-16. There are no minutes for personnel. There are no minutes since the beginning of 2016 for policy committee. The Alert Now system was used to announce the dinners at the Perk tonight, but we didn't have any agendas for tonight. So I just wonder where the priority is for this district.
We had minutes. I'm going to answer this. We had minutes for policy. I don't put them on the web, so maybe we should talk to Joe Ferry.
Okay, they're not on the web. I'm talking about what the public receives. There was no presentation tonight for the budget. That has never happened before. Bob Reinhardt, Kathy Johnson, there was always something for the public to see and understand. So I just have to believe that the policy is that the agendas go out 3 days in advance for the board. From what I understand, they were out to individuals, but they were not listed for the public. So I don't know if you all don't care about the public, or you can't somehow manage to get that done, or your minutes completed within 12-month period or 6-month period. Policy and personnel in particular are very bad. Ad hoc fundraising, no minutes. I just think you guys need to, pay a little more attention to some of the details before you start telling the public that shame on them for asking for information when you don't even do the bare minimum in many cases. I'm sorry, Bob.
Just leave it on the go through from the phone. Thank you, Mr. Dalbert, for your honesty and pointing out that last year we were overtaxed by your fudge factor in your calculations of the budget. You basically admitted that Kathy Johnson was using a number that wasn't true. So that means I paid more in taxes than I needed to last year. And again, I was able again to forecast the future. I said, you will not pass up a tax increase next year either. You won't pass this one up, and you'll do it again next year. You won't spend less money next year, you'll spend more money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Meeting's adjourned.
I'd like to point out that the people that got up and left just showed the attitude that they don't care what you have to say if you're a member of the public. Okay? They can't even stay another 3, 4, 5 minutes. They got to get up and run rather than listen to some member of the public.